today we're here to learn about listening skills and successful note-taking. It's really different from high school, if you might have already noticed. There's so much talking going on, commotion in those big lecture halls. You might get distracted, you don't know exactly what to take down. It's a little bit different. So hopefully this presentation will just help you guys understand a little bit better. Food for thought, 50% of the information that in a whole presentation or conversation, 50% of that information is what we can actually recall. Out of that 50%, 20 to 30 of that information is incorrect. So whenever you're telling a story, anything that's really animated and that leads somewhere, you'll remember that better than just a lecture or a presentation. It just happens that way. It's just how your mind works. So that's why it's very helpful for you to listen actively rather than passively. Passive listening is bad listening. It sounds really simple, but it's like you're not interested, you're just there spacing out, not really paying attention. Everybody knows when somebody's talking, you do the head nod thing. You're like, yeah, got it. Do you really understand what they're talking about rather than doing this non-verbally? Sometimes that doesn't happen. A lot of times nowadays, we're distracted by our technology. If there's a computer or your laptop is there, and you say you're taking notes, people get on Facebook, MySpace, that stuff. Cell phones, people always have their cell phones out, texting, making sure that they don't miss that one call or that one text. Put that stuff away. Do you really need your texting during class? I mean, I know I do it, but I try and put it away. Do I really need it on my laptop when I'm taking my notes? No, I can just do it on a piece of paper. Take everything out that's distracting you. And also there's spacing out. Make sure it doesn't go in one ear and out the other, okay? Active listening is when you're paying attention, obviously. And you have to determine what the speaker is saying is important. And we'll talk about that later, how you determine that. Arrange so you can hear. What do I mean by that? You have to sit in the front. It is statistically shown that if you sit in the back, if you sit behind people when you get there, you've already put down your grade by like 5%, 10%, just by sitting somewhere. In those big lecture halls, I recommend that you sit on the inside rather than the outside. You know, when you come in the T section, you can draw it in the T. Sit on the inside rather than the outside, because if people come in late, they're going to have to distract you by like, oh, excuse me, sorry, excuse me. You know, sit on the inside so you don't have any distractions. You're watching the professor right in front. If you disagree with something, if you don't understand something, don't just block it out. Like, for instance, real controversial issues like, I don't know, gay marriage. If you don't believe in it, don't be like, oh, I don't believe in it, I don't want to talk about it. Shut down. Listen to it. Listen to what the other side has to say, because if you have to write it in a paper, then you have to defend your opinion or object to what the other person is saying. And you can't do that unless you understand both sides of the story. Listen, lead ideas, summarize, talk, and notes. You have to lead yourself and be prepared for your class. So go ahead and skim through the chapter before class, skim through your notes that you took before. Anything that can give you a solid overview of what you're going to talk before you get into class. Make sure you arrive a few minutes early in case that the professor is answering any questions that you might have before or things like that. Just make sure that you are prepared and take the lead mentally and physically. Ideas. You have to focus on the main ideas and the concepts. So if there's something in your chapter that you know that you wanted to understand a little bit better, or you wanted a better idea what the professor's talking about, write that in your notes already. Circle it, highlight in your chapter something that you know that you get every word down in case you don't understand it. Summarize. Sounds simple enough. Summarize your ideas and make that link between point A and point B. Like if you're talking about gravity or something. Gravity is very, very important. Why? Because of this, this, and this. Why did the apple fall? Because of gravity, because of what you just stated before. See how you have to link everything? That's how you get to the conclusion. That's how you understand your tests and you write essays. Talk. I encourage this so much. Yes, I'm a communication major. I understand that, but you have to ask questions to get clarification or specific examples. I'm constantly asking my professors after certain points in the lectures, how does this relate to this? Or what about this instance? things like that. Make sure that you understand it. You're paying for this education, get the most out of it, okay? Always ask questions. And make sure you stay at the very end of class rather than packing up in the last 5 minutes. Okay, gotta go, I gotta go. That's really rude, and then it distracts other people. If you're distracted by people putting away, your mind's gonna be like, oh, shutting down. I'm not gonna finish. End your notes in a good positive way. Finish your thought thoroughly and stay to the end so that in case you do have questions, you can talk to your professor. Notes. Obviously, review what you've learned after the lecture. Add anything that you may need. And of course, before starting the next lecture, go over it so you can again link it. You understand? It's one huge cycle. You go from notes back to lead, back to ideas. It's all wonderful. Real simple, food for thought, 5 reasons why you should take notes. Obviously, it triggers and helps you remember your information. You get to concentrate in class rather than being distracted by texting and all that stuff. And in the beginning, what did I say? 20 to 30% of the information that you heard is incorrect. Why do you want to remember incorrect information? Write it down. Obviously, it'll help you prepare for tests. Notes are valuable and important clues for yourself, obviously. And your notes are written in your own words rather than writing down everything I wrote. Put it in so you understand it. When you look at somebody else's notes, you don't get it because they wrote it in the way that they understand. Some quick questions and problems that everybody has when it comes to note-taking. What is important? How do you decipher what is important and what's not important? Do I write every single word down that the professor says? My professor talks too fast. How can I write everything down? Can I simply record the lecture, with the little tape recorders? Can I record what they're saying? And can I just print out the PowerPoints? Well, here are the answers to those questions and problems. Of course, the beginning and the ending are very important. Again, those lead you into what is going to be discussed in the lecture, and the end, of course, summarizes everything. So make sure you pay attention to what the professor is saying in that time. Of course, definitions and terms, but another thing is repeated information. If a professor repeats a specific word every single time, and if you don't understand that word, look it up. Ask them after class. Repeated information is also very important. Emphasis on specific words. You have to learn how to listen to your professor and understand how each one of them talks. It takes a little while, but by a month, you'll understand how that they teach and what words and their phrasing and how it works. Write notes about things you don't understand. Put question marks around something, circle it, do whatever you can if you don't understand something or if they confuse you, so that later on you can go back in your notes and in the chapter to read about it or again, talk to your professor. Look for main ideas supported by bullets, listing, names, and dates. Now if your professor says, don't worry about the name and dates, it's okay, don't worry about it, okay, then you know not to worry about it. If in history class, if he says names and dates, that's pretty important because that's history. So it just depends on which professor and which class you're taking. Of course, if you're still not sure, ask your professor. Do I write it all down? This is a lot of questions that I've always had, even myself. Do not write word for word. Be brief, shorthanded. Like if you're texting, you know how we don't write the entire sentence before? It's like BRB, LUV, U, stuff like that. Translate into your own words. Make sure that you understand it. Organize it in a logical form. So if this was slide 3, put slide 3 on your notes and then write down what you're going to write for slide 3. And write legibly. Don't write too fast to where it looks like chicken scratch. You can't read it later.